All right, JHK here for the AllStar, and join me right now is UFC strawweight Sam Hughes. Sam, it's weird, right? You're supposed to fight.
Very, very strange.
Yeah, you're supposed to fight a couple weeks ago. Your corner tested positive. Can you give us a little breakdown of what exactly happened?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so basically the protocol for the UFC is like a week before you even fly out, they make you do like a Zoom COVID test, and one of the like officials is watching you do a swab and then put it in the little canister and then mail it off and send it to like somewhere in like Illinois. So we did that. Apparently we tested negative for COVID then, and then so we were able to fly. And right whenever we got to the UFC hotel, um, before we can even go to our rooms or anything, we have to go to a portable outside and get tested. So I did that. My coach did that, and those were my only. It was only him as my corner that showed up on Tuesday with me. My two other corners were going to show up on Thursday. So anyway, we did that. Then go to our room to get to quarantine until they send us a text message and say, "Hey, you're either a-okay or not good to go." So we sit there for probably 30 minutes and just kind of getting unpacked and things like that. And I got a text message that said, "Hey, Sam, you're good to go. Please check in the lobby and get registered for the week and get your schedule and yada, yada, yada." And I assumed, because it said on the text message, fighters and corners, but it was basically like a catch-all text. So I was like, "Okay, coach, come down with me. We're all cleared to go." And they asked, they're like, "Did he get a text message as well?" And I said, "No, but I assumed it was both of us together since we did it at the same time." And they're like, "No, you have to go back up to your room and then just wait it out." And then about 15 minutes later, he got a phone call, and I was like, "Oh God, this is not good." Because whenever you get a phone call, it's like, "Ah, this is probably not good." So anyway, they were like, "Eddie Grant, you tested positive," and we were like, "How? How did this happen?" Like, he didn't feel sick. He didn't I don't know. We didn't have any exposures in our camp or anything like that. So anyway, we were like, "Well, what's the plan now?" So the UFC arranged for us to get a rental card because we couldn't fly back home. And so it was 18 hours later, we ended up back in Washington. So that was a fiasco and just a headache. It felt like all the wind out of my sail was just like all out. And it was kind of crushing. It was really sad to like watch us leave Vegas. And I was just like, well, what can you do? I mean, it is what it is. So I know I'll fight Loopy here in the future, probably near future, but yeah, I don't know. It was rough. And then everything else that happened in October was pretty rough too. So it's been a weird like 5 weeks, 4 weeks for me, but that's okay. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to fight this weekend.
Yeah. You're stepping in, and what exactly happened in October besides the COVID stuff?
Oh, I had some family stuff going on. My grandfather ended up dying, so it was kind of crazy. Short notice, I had to fly out to Iowa, see some family and things like that. So it was kind of sad. It was kind of like a little black cloud over my head for the month of October, but it's all good. I'm ready to just get back in the cage, and then everything will just even out.
Was it easy for you to kind of get over the cancellation of your fight, or did it kind of linger with you for a little bit?
It was rough. Yeah, it kind of lingered with me for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Like on the drive home, Coach and I were obviously chatting because we had 18 hours just to shoot the shit or whatever. And I was like, you know what? This actually feels like a loss. It's not, but it feels like it. And it just like, I felt that in my chest. I was like, oh, this is so crushing. And like, it was hard saying that to him because he was the one that tested positive. But in no like stretch of the imagination did I ever like hold that against him or anything like that. It's like, he can't control that. And then right whenever we landed, or right whenever we came back to Washington, he quarantined from his family and basically stayed at the gym and closed down the gym for about a week, and tested himself 3 times, and all of them were negative. So it was just a crazy time because we were like, how did we get this one positive in this all negative? And so it was basically essentially 20 hours after we had taken the COVID test that he tested himself 3 more times, and all of them were negative. So I don't understand it. It is what it is. Sometimes crazy things happen, but I'm very hopeful that everything will go perfectly this week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that's like nowadays that's people's nightmares to test positive, but what's even worse is testing a false positive that
Yeah.
just messes everything up that you're working on. But anyways, I think it happened for a reason because you get to step in against a much more established fighter compared to
Yes.
Loopy, right? In the division.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, 9-1. Luana has really established herself. I'm really, really excited for this matchup. When Coach and I were talking about it, it was like, it just seems like everything is kind of aligned, and it's perfect situation for me. I think after this win, it'll be like, okay, she had a close fight against Loma. The T-shirt fight was what it was. But she's somebody that needs to be looked out for because she's going to make a name for herself in this division.
Yeah, well, there was no easy fights. Even this one coming up, it's gonna be a test, right?
Yes, for sure.
When you saw this fight fall out, did you know like, okay, I want to step in at this moment? You're ready to fight?
No, I had no idea that it had fallen out. I didn't even know what happened with Jessica or anything like that. It's kind of strange. I still don't know what happened, but I'm super happy that Mick reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want to step in?" And we were like, "Yes," because I was already itching. I mean, obviously, since October, I had a great camp leading up to the fight with Loopy, and then I was still in shape. I was still doing stuff every single day, so I've just kind of like drug it out a little bit longer, which is perfectly fine for me. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and sometimes that works out. You know, having the extended camp, even though you're supposed to fight on a certain date, and then you add a couple weeks to it, it actually gives more momentum to a fighter.
It does, yeah, and that's certainly how it's felt coming into this week. I mean, it was only, I think I took this fight on 12 days notice, so the weight cut's not an issue for me. But yeah, I think it has kind of like revamped the little fire in me. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And when you look at her, you know, like, what do you see in her as a fighter?
Yeah, so I know that she's a great judo fighter. She's certainly an all-around martial artist, and I respect that out of her. Um, and I mean, honestly, the only thing that I have to do is not let her get a hold of me. And I know the fight is what it is. She's really good in her skill set, and so if I get thrown one time, it's not the end of the world. I'm very confident in my ground game, but to keep it like a long rangey fight, either I'm all in or I'm all out. But kind of staying long is going to be key for this fight.
A phenomenon in women's mixed martial arts is that head and arm throw that a lot
Yes.
of girls use, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna probably try to use it against you. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
for sure. Yes, we have already like kind of broken that down and have like a million game plans for it. But yeah, that's totally what we're expecting her to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Being in that position, right, and being the one that's thrown, even though you
Yep.
get thrown, you could actually land in a very advantageous position on the ground.
Yes. And we've gone through that too. So there's a lot to think about. And I think above everything else, you just have to be aware, like once you actually hit the ground and where you are kind of, and I feel like I really have a good awareness, like a body awareness and things like that.
So you're mainly focusing on probably a striking battle then with her.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to beat her up,
But
basically.
I don't want to give it all away, but I'm very confident in my wrestling too. I've really sat hard for the last like 4 months on my wrestling, and I have tremendous training partners that are like Division I wrestlers and things like that. So very excited to kind of like even out as far as like judo versus wrestler or judo versus kickboxer and things like that. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
What is the perfect outcome for this fight for you?
Oh my goodness. I think I want to showcase my striking. I think that's one thing in the Loma fight that I didn't actually showcase until round 2.5 and then all of 3, that I am a very good striker. I am a very good kickboxer. And so for me to get like a TKO, KO would be like just that icing or that cherry on top of the cake. It would be unbelievable. That would be a perfect situation for me.
Yeah, and your last fight that was canceled was against scheduled against Lupi. She's stepping in on short notice against Loma, who
Which is
you last
crazy.
fought. Yeah, and you guys are fighting on the same night, which is wild
Yeah,
to me.
it is wild to me too, because after I saw that, I was like, man, I mean, it seems like Lupi's really like kind of like followed who I've fought in. I mean, whether it was like Demopolis, whether it's Loma, it's like a bunch of people I can keep naming, but so it's just kind of funny. She's kind of like just trailed me a little bit, but yeah, she's a great fighter. I respect her a lot. I had some nice things to say to her. I was just like, hey, I'm really sorry about everything that happened with COVID and stuff. And she reached out. She was super respectful. And we were both like, hey, we'll see you in the future. And yeah. So, yeah, she seems to be a nice person. And but I definitely want to see her in the cage for that trilogy fight soon.
You fought Loma. You prepare for Lupi. What do you see in this matchup this weekend?
Man, I really see me having a very good performance. Showcasing, my wrestling, my striking, all of that. I just want to be so sharp, so technical. I've, prepared a really long time. Against Lupi, I was training with high-level boxers and things like that. So I think you're going to see a lot of that I was going to do with Lupi against her. And so it's gonna be really interesting. I don't want to say too much. It's always hard to not say too much or not saying enough. So
Exactly, you got to find that balance. A couple more questions before I let you go. PTSD, from like injuries or losses or even like crazy wars in the cage. Do you think that exists among fighters?
Oh yeah. I mean, God, PTSD is actually like yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, even as simple as like just the COVID test. I went through PTSD this week because last week, whenever we did the Zoom COVID test, I was like reaching out to some of the people at the UFC, and I was like, am I negative? Am I negative? And is my coach negative? And just like, because that was the only thing that I was like, this is the only thing that I cannot control. And I was like so worried about it. But yeah, as far as like getting in the cage, PTSD is a real thing. I mean, even, the loss that I took against Lupi, I don't actually think I lost as an amateur, but I still, like, going into that, I was like, I don't know, you just have like this weird kind of like, well, what if that happens again? It's like, well, I don't have the same judges. So that's like, toss that out the window. Stop thinking about that. Yeah, I definitely do think it's a real thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting to listen to the fighters talk about overcoming some of the PTSD that they have from certain, episodes in the past.
Yes. Actually, it's kind of funny. I had somebody reach out to me and ask me if I had any like social anxiety or training anxiety. And yeah, I go through that every single day. It's like sometimes I'm like, I know that I have some badass training partners and, like sparring, I even get like the nerves with that. But it's just like kind of how you channel that anxiety and how you use it for something positive. Because it's good nerves, it's good to feel the nerves. If you don't feel the nerves anymore, I don't think you should really be doing it, because you could really get hurt. It shows that you care. It shows that it's important to you. So yeah, all of that. Again, it's how you channel everything and use something for positive instead of using it as like a declining
Exactly, downward spiral type of thing.
Yeah.
It can happen, man. We've seen it happen to a few fighters out there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Now, one last thing, open-ended question. You
Yes.
could answer it any way you want. What keeps you up at night?
Oh man, what keeps me up at night? Honestly, the fight. I think about the fight like a million different ways, and I'll like catch myself like whenever I close my eyes, I'm like, okay, just relax, just go to sleep. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, this, and this is going to happen. How are you going to like handle that? And what are you going to do about if she does this? And then like, and then like I look at my phone and then an hour has gone by and I'm like, how the hell did an hour go by? And like, I just like created like so many situations in my head. So that keeps me up at night, but it's healthy. Everybody, I think everybody goes through that. And yeah, that's probably it. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, because if you really dissect fights or just matches or whatever, it can be a never-ending chain of events,
Oh my God.
right?
Yes.
It never ends.
It never does, because there's
Yeah,
a million different things that can happen, and
yeah,
sometimes the fight gods shit on you, and sometimes they whatever. So it's like, eh, we'll see.
yeah. We'll see for sure. November 20th, UFC Fight Night, Las Vegas. Thank you, Sam, for the time. Always enjoy our
John, thank you
chats.
so much. That was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.